Tadhg, firstly, what have you made of the Six Nations so far? Good win against Wales and disappointing in Paris.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of been up and down a little bit. I suppose we're obviously massively disappointed with the result in Paris, and probably some areas of our performance as well. We started really well against Wales. I thought we played particularly well. At the even the first 10 minutes we came out of the blocks really strong, and then obviously the following week we probably let ourselves down a little bit in certain areas of the game against France. So it's been up and down, but Six Nations isn't over yet. Anything can happen in the next few weeks, and we'll just keep our head down and our focus on Italy now and go from there.
Is the defeat to France even harder to take when you actually are in the game the whole way through?
Yeah, I think defeat either way is going to be difficult, but I think we're obviously massively disappointed at the time, and I think it probably was even worse when we look back in the game and see the opportunities we left out there, and certain areas of the game where we know we probably left a lot of tries out there, a lot, as I said, opportunities. So that's probably where it hurts the most when you go back and review it and you kind of shake yourselves off and go, there's a lot more in us. We kind of left that one out there.
Yeah, an area maybe you were disappointed would be the line-out. When you look back at that, is that a whole function of callers, jumpers, everything, or is it a fact they were actually very good in the line-out as well?
Yeah, they are defensively, they were really good. They probably didn't show us the same pictures that they had shown the previous week, which probably maybe surprised us a little bit. But you have Walkie in there, who's an incredible athlete. He's an extremely big boy, so he defended really well, and I think they disrupted our line-out really well. So credit to them. I think obviously the drill, our drill wasn't where the standards we set for ourselves. So we certainly looked at that in terms of every little aspect of that. So it was a combination of everything really. But I think we've certainly looked at it, and hopefully it'll have improved for Sunday.
Yeah, last one on France. The physicality, from the outside people say, Ireland will always be up against it, we're a wee bit smaller. Actually playing in those games, Tadhg, what's it like, and how do you, I suppose you have to try and beat the first man if you can through feet or whatever, but how do you assess the physicality in Ireland at the moment?
I don't think we're off it at all. Obviously France are, if you look at them, they're a bigger side than we are, but we've looked at that game and I don't think we were lacking any physicality. I think we just made errors in the way we were playing and the way we were defending, and made them look probably more physical than they were, and that's probably where we let ourselves down. So I certainly don't feel like we're lacking any physicality, despite what a lot of others might say, and certainly within camp we don't feel that way either.
And yourself, if we bring it back, you just signed a new contract with the RFU. How much are you loving your rugby? You're probably playing the best rugby of your career at the moment. Was that a very easy decision?
Yeah, it was. It was a decision myself, my fiance, my family certainly spoke over, but it was certainly an easy one. Getting an opportunity to sign a central contract was a massive honour for me, and I certainly didn't have to think about it for too long.
If we go back to 2016, when you were released by Leinster, did you ever think professional rugby wasn't actually going to be for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think when I first got told it wasn't going to happen, and then the few months towards the end of the season where there wasn't really anything kind of coming my way, I certainly I was in, as I've said many times, I was in the middle of a Masters at the time, so it was kind of a thing where it was easy. Probably made more sense for me to just kind of pack it in and focus on my career more so than rugby. And then obviously Scarlets came in last minute, and after a lot of thought and discussions with my family at the time, I just felt that I'd regret not giving it one last crack. And luckily, as I said before, it's certainly a decision that's worked out for me.
Yeah, it has indeed. I remember a game 2018 at the Rec for the Scarlets against Bath. You pretty much lit the night up that evening. Was that a moment you felt, geez, I can really get back into international rugby, or when did it trigger with you, I can get back, or I can make my debut in Ireland shirt?
I can't really put a finger on when exactly. It's certainly probably towards the end of my first year in Scarlets. I was kind of backing up probably performances. I was starting regularly. We were starting to hit some really good form as a team, and I think during that period there's probably a little bit of noise in the Irish media about my performances. So it probably started to trickle into my mind a little bit then, but I think in my head I was kind of telling myself I'm very far away from an international, being selected into an international team at the time. And you look at Ireland's performances back then as well. They had some serious second rows, and I kind of looked at it like that, and I was kind of like, it probably won't happen. So probably would have been my second year where I really started to think and got a bit more confident in my performances, and a bit more comfortable in that regular starting position in Scarlets, that I probably started to think, geez, maybe there is an opportunity here. And that's probably why my decision going to Munster was made, and I kind of knew that if I wanted to have a crack at it, that's what I had to do. And Munster came knocking, and it was an easy enough decision for me from there.
Yeah, and you made your debut in 2018 in Melbourne against Australia. What and then worked under Joe. What was that like, Tadhg?
Nerve-wracking, I won't lie. A massive step up. I think the environment in Scarlett, even to Munster, is completely different. And I was really enjoying that kind of environment, and I wasn't really used to. I probably wasn't used to the intensity of international rugby, international training even, and that's probably where it shocked me the most. And I think my first camp, it's almost the whole 3 weeks over in Australia is a bit of a blur to me, because I was just I'm probably a little bit overwhelmed by all the information, all the detail that was required of you as a player. But it was a great learning and something I really enjoyed, and it's still one of my, even though it's a blur, it's still one of my favourite tours to date, that tour over in Australia. It was an incredible experience. My whole family at the time were over there, so it was quite special.
Yeah, and it'd be fair to say, I suppose you were still growing as a player, but Joe used you off the bench a lot more, whereas Andy, now you're a starter playing the best rugby you probably have been at the moment. Why do you think that was, Tiger? Why do you think that is now?
I suppose, under Joe, I don't feel like, I've obviously learned a lot over the years, but I certainly felt after a while that I was good enough to start, but I didn't really get an opportunity of a run of games, and that was just down to selection, and there was a lot of good players ahead of me, and that was fair enough. That was the way it was. But and even when Vaz took over, it took a while for me to just get an opportunity just to have a couple of games back to back in a starting role, and kind of showcase a little bit of what I could do and how I could fit into the systems they were asking of me. So once I got that opportunity, it probably held to me, and that's probably why I've probably kicked on.
Yeah, and there's not many second row stroke back rows that do 50-22s at international level. Time, can you give us a wee bit of insight into this? Is this off the cuff, or are you practicing this time?
No, I'm certainly not practicing it. I might mess around with the ball and kicking it after training, but I don't think it was more just instinct at the time to just give it a whack along the ground, and it was almost hope for the best, I suppose. But certainly worked out, and maybe if the opportunity comes again, I'll give it another crack.
I'd say you will. You'll be shy of it. If we look at the breakdown, you're coaching all the time. Is that a situation that you pick your moments, or what's going through your head?
Definitely picking my moments. That's certainly something that I've had to work on massively. I think if you look back to my Scarlet days, and certainly got a lot of poaches back then, but I was probably sticking my head in every single ruck that was landing in front of me, whereas the game's moved on certainly, and I think I've had to adapt quite a bit and had to pick my moments a lot more, and I feel like I'm getting better at that. Still have to improve on it. There were certain times in France where I stuck my head in to a ruck where I probably shouldn't have, and they can have knock-on effect to defensive line situations and stuff. So certainly you have to be more careful in that area and be good at picking your moments.
Last couple for me. Second row or back row, honestly?
I prefer second row. Yeah, I feel like you get a lot more involved. It can often depend on the system. I think some days in training you might prefer to be back row when we're going through 100 scrums, but definitely around the park, probably second row.
And is this the best group of Ireland players you've worked at in your couple of years, Tadhg?
Yeah, it's certainly. I think the talent in here is quite exceptional for sure. I think everyone's buying into everything we're doing. I've played with some great players through the years, but as a collective, I certainly feel like there's something special building in here, and certainly enjoying it. Enjoying it the most I have, that's for sure.
That's great. And Italy on Sunday, obviously struggling at the moment. What can you expect from them?
You say they're struggling, but they've put in some good performances. They've been in the game for quite long periods. So I expect them to come out of the blocks quite hard and to come at us physically. And certainly looking forward to that. I think we certainly need to start well, and hopefully with a full Aviva that will help.
Yeah, hopefully it will. And how much better do you think you can get, Tadhg?
You can't really put a limit on it, can you? You just have to keep being eager to learn and eager to get better every day would be my goal, really, and I feel like I'm doing that. I'm certainly picking the brains of some great coaches in here and even great players. You can learn off everyone, and I'm going to continue to do that, and hopefully my game will improve and it'll show on the field.
Yeah, and is there much chat? Obviously, you did lose to France. Is there much chat about winning this championship, Tadhg, or is it still game by game?
Look, I think every player in all the nations, their goal is to win the Six Nations. It's out of our hands essentially at the moment, but what we can control is Sunday, and we'll have to go after that game and get a win there, and then after that, we just have to look to someone else to upset France along the way, and certainly there's an opportunity there to win it, but right now we just have to look after our own situation.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, you're only 30. What ambitions do you have in the game? Surely it is to get Ireland past the quarter-final in the World Cup.
Absolutely, and more, of course. I think to be involved in another World Cup would be a massive personal achievement. That's certainly a long-term goal of mine to be involved in that next World Cup, and as a player, your ultimate goal is to win everything you're in. So I want to win everything with Munster this year. I want to win everything with Ireland. So yeah, look, they're my goals, and I'll certainly do my best to achieve them.
Well, Tadhg, it's been a pleasure, and thanks so much for your time.
Cheers, appreciate it, Stuart.